The series begins with a woman named Dima who lives in a village in Turkey. She decides to move to Istanbul after her tailor shop closes due to debts. It is revealed that Dima's neighbors are sad because they love her, but she has no choice, especially since she wants her daughter Zainab to attend a good school in Istanbul. During this time, her friend Hala calls her and they plan to live with her. Hala asks if Zainab is happy about the move. Dima lies and says she is very happy, but the truth is that Zainab has left the house and walked away. After Hala hangs up, Karam enters. We learn that Hala is the principal of Karam's father's school. Karam asks her to find the student who scratched his car and punish them, but he doesn't know what the student looks like. She refuses because the student didn't do it at school. It's clear that Hala is upset with Karam's behavior as he treats the students poorly. Karam leaves before she finishes talking. We then return to Dima, who knows where her daughter is staying. She goes there to convince her to travel with her, but Zainab asks her to stay away and says she doesn't want to leave because she doesn't want to leave her friends and the place she loves. Dima is upset because her daughter won't listen to her and leaves. Zainab, feeling distraught, imagines her father talking to her, asking her to travel with her mother and not leave her alone. We learn that Zainab's father was a ship captain who disappeared a long time ago, and no one knows his whereabouts. However, Zainab is sure he will return. She listens to his advice and runs to catch the bus her mother is on. She travels with her, but remains upset the whole way. She asks what will happen if her father returns and doesn't find them. Her mother tells her that her father is dead, that she needs to accept it. Back at the school, we see a boy named John, a friend of Karam, who enters the classrooms and lies to the teachers, telling them that the principal needs the students he names. We learn that John is selecting students suspected of vandalizing Karam's car. However, Jihad, the physical education teacher, refuses to let anyone leave the field. He goes to Hala and informs her that Karam is causing trouble. We see Karam questioning the students, asking them to confess and promising not to punish them if they do. At this moment, Mazin, Karam's closest friend, appears. Although they are close, their personalities are different. Mazin asks Karam to stop acting childishly and tells him the issue is not that serious. However, Karam is not interested in the car. All he cares about is that no one defies him. Hala yells at him and decides to call his mother Siham, who is busy, and ends the call quickly. Karam is upset because Hala always calls his mother to complain about him, even though his mother isn't interested in him or available for him. He tells her he doesn't mind if she punishes or expels him, but Hala continues to yell at him, explaining that they are in a school, not his father's farm. Karam laughs when he sees his father's name on the school's banner. Hala becomes even more upset and kicks him out of her office. When he leaves, John gives him the tool the student used to scratch his car, reassuring him that he will find the culprit. A little later, Dima and her daughter arrive at Hala's house, and Hala is very happy to welcome them. She shows them around the house and shows Zainab her room, which is very nice, but Zainab is uninterested and places a picture of her father on the desk. At night, Dima sits with Hala and tells her about her circumstances, explaining that she sold everything and has no money. Hala reassures her, telling her that she spoke to her sister Magda about getting her a job. We learn that Dima is a seamstress and had a shop in the village. Dima is happy and promises to look for a house once she has money, but Hala wants her to stay with her. Meanwhile, we see Karam talking to Mazen, who asks him to show him his new drawing. It is revealed that Karam loves drawing, but doesn't show his work to anyone except Mazen. While they are talking, the maid enters and accidentally sees his drawings. Karam gets angry and kicks her out of the room. He then leaves the house, and John calls him to inform him that he found the student who damaged his car. We go back to Dima, who is looking at photos of her and Hala from when they were young. She becomes anxious when she sees a photo of Jihad, who we learn was her boyfriend. She asks Hala if she sees him, just as Jihad calls Hala. Hala quickly ends the call and lies to Dima, saying she hasn't seen him in a long time. Jihad is surprised when Hala doesn't answer his call. He then argues with his wife, Lujane, who is upset because he refuses to go to the party with her. She tells him she knows why he doesn't want to go, which is because he will see his friends there. They will surely ask him about his current job. He would be embarrassed to tell them he is now a teacher. Jihad gets upset by her words and kicks her out of his office. It is revealed that Jihad was a tennis champion but had to retire due to an injury, which is why he now works as a teacher. We return to Hala, who asks Dima to tell her daughter the truth, that the captain is not her real father. Dima refuses, saying she doesn't want to shock her daughter. At this moment, we see Zainab imagining her father and telling him that they wouldn't have moved if he were there. Her father tells her that her mother loves her and did this for her benefit, but Zainab already knows this. The next day, Zainab goes to school and takes the bus, which is very crowded. She can't stand being on the bus for long, so she gets off and decides to run to school. At the same time, Jihad and his daughter Manal are in the car. Jihad is surprised when he sees Zainab and asks his daughter about her, but she doesn't know Zainab and calls her crazy. Meanwhile, Hala meets with Siham to talk about Karam, but Siham is busy and leaves leaves Hala to attend a meeting. Hala decides to follow her and tells her that she won't be able to continue at the school if Karam doesn't change, as parents refuse to enroll their children because of his behavior. Hala asks Siham to sit with Karam and talk to him. Siham tells her that her son is the most important thing to her, even more than the school, although the school is very important to the company. Hala tells her she's wrong and that one day she will realize it, but Siham refuses to continue the conversation and says she has a meeting. At school, we see Karam talking to a boy named Ziad in the school's basement. Karam has discovered that Ziad scratched his car because his father owns a car repair shop. Ziad denies it, but Karam is sure and makes his friends torture Ziad to make him confess. At that moment, Zainab arrives at the school and asks for Hala's office. One of the students lies to her, directing her to the gymnasium, pretending it's Hala's office. When Zainab goes there, she realizes she has been tricked. At that moment, she hears Ziad screaming. She is shocked when she enters the room and sees him being tortured. She asks Karam to let him go because he's going to die, but Karam refuses and kicks her out of the room. Zainab then runs into Hala's office, barely able to catch her breath. Recalling what happened, we learn that she splashed water on Karam and his friends to save Ziad, then ran away from them. Meanwhile, Mazen is trying to talk to Manal because he likes her, but Zainab inadvertently trips him as she runs, causing him to fall. She manages to reach Hala's office without anyone catching her. Hala tells her she will take her to the classroom and introduce her to the students. Zainab is scared and says she feels sick and wants to go home, but Hala refuses and takes her to the classroom. We then return to Karam, who is soaked and watched by all the students. Manal is worried when she sees him and asks what happened. He tells her he doesn't know who the girl is and asks his friends to find her. Meanwhile, Dima arrives at Magda's atelier. She is very excited to see her and greets her warmly, but Magda keeps her distance and asks Dima to speak formally. Dima is disappointed and realizes that Magda only hired her because she is Hala's friend. We return to Hala, who introduces Zainab to the class. Manal suspects that Zainab is the girl who splashed Karam with water. She takes a photo of her and sends it to Karam. Karam sends his friends to chase after her as soon as she leaves the classroom. Zainab tries to escape from them, but fails because the girls trip her to the ground. John catches her, takes her to Karam, who demands an apology in exchange for forgiving her. Zainab mocks him and calls him stupid, saying he almost killed the student. She refuses to apologize, saying she would never do that. Karam threatens her, saying she'll be running from school in tears within 2 days. Zainab accepts the challenge and walks away. At that moment, she sees Manal and realizes she was the one who reported her. Manal offers to harass Zainab and tells Karam that her father's class is next, and he won't do anything to her. It's revealed that Manal does this because she likes Karam. Meanwhile, Hala talks to Jihad, asking him to look after Zainab, mentioning that she is a fast runner and could earn a sports scholarship. She asks him to take care of her because she is her friend's daughter and close to her. We switch to Dima, who is shocked to see Lujan at the atelier, revealing that she knows her. Lujan feels there is a problem with the dress, and Dima immediately identifies the issue, saying the stitching is faulty. Lujan appreciates her honesty and tells her that she likes her, asking Dima to fix the dress. Magda is annoyed and warns Dima not to take such decisions again. At school, Jihad talks to Zainab and discovers she was the girl running to school. It's clear he admired her bravery then. He asks her to rest since she is new, but Zainab wants to play. Manal decides to bother her and keeps tripping her until Zainab gets tired and falls, injuring her legs. Manal follows her into the bathroom and demands she apologize to Karam. Zainab refuses and walks away, only to be surprised when Manal throws water on her. Jihad is shocked when he hears her scream and is upset to find out his daughter was responsible. He decides to punish her and takes her to the principal's office, asking for her to be disciplined. Meanwhile, Zainab tries to escape from the students, finds a secluded spot and starts crying. She is surprised to find photos and books there, realizing it's Mazen's spot. Mazen is pleased when he sees Manal leaving school and keeps watching her, while Karam notices and knows his friend likes her, making it impossible for him to think about her. After school, Karam returns home and finds no one there. He decides to bring food to his father, Ahmed, who is watching a video of himself with his eldest son, who died 12 years ago. This loss led Ahmed to become depressed and confine himself at home. Karam tries to talk to his father and invites him to watch a game together, but his father doesn't respond. Karam leaves and is surprised to find his mother at home. She tells him she wants to talk about the school matter. She doesn't get to finish her sentence because she receives a work call. Karam feels upset because no one seems to care about him. Meanwhile, Zainab is tending to her leg wounds and hides them when her mother comes in to avoid worrying her. Her mother asks about school, and Zainab says she didn't like it and wants to go back home. Her mother tries to comfort her, saying she will eventually adapt. She is shocked when she sees the wounds on Zainab's legs, but Zainab lies, saying she fell on the road. Later, Hala talks to Zainab about what happened at school and asks if Karam was involved. Zainab lies and says she didn't see him at all. She's surprised to learn that his family family owns the school. Hala advises her to stay away from him and avoid getting into trouble. Meanwhile, Karam goes to his friend Mazen's house because he is hungry and doesn't want to eat at home. Mazen's grandmother is happy to see him. We learn that Mazen's parents are deceased and his grandmother raised him. She prepares food for them and tells them to go to bed early for school. Dima is flustered when she sees Lujane on television, realizing she is an actress. At that moment, Lujane argues with her husband because he punished their daughter. She tells him she let him work at the school for their daughter's sake and threatens to pull her out if he can't protect her. Manal is scared because she doesn't want to be away from Karam. Karam is surprised when he sees Mazen's drawings, all of which resemble Manal. He encourages Mazen to confess his feelings, saying she won't find anyone better than him. Mazen says he is afraid of being rejected and asks Karam for help. Karam promises to come up with a plan to make Manal chase after Mazen. Before they go to sleep, Mazen admits that he sent his drawing to a famous artist. Karam is upset, saying the artist will mock him because his drawings aren't good and he doesn't like anyone seeing them. Mazen encourages him, asking him to trust in his talent, saying he will believe him when he hears the artist's feedback. The next day, Mazen meets Zainab in the gym. She is surprised to find someone normal and sane like him at the school. Jihad enters and asks Mazen to leave because he needs to train with Zainab. After Mazen leaves, Jihad asks Zainab about her running level, but she doesn't know because she has never trained before. He asks her to run so he can assess her level. He is astonished by her speed and asks her to run again, confirming that she is truly talented and fast. At that moment, Manal wakes up startled because she is late for school, but then remembers she is suspended for 2 days. Her mother tells her she will go to the production company and then they will have lunch together. At school, we see Zainab sitting next to Ziad, and she is surprised to learn that he was the one who damaged Karam's car, which is why Karam was taking revenge on him. She asks him why he did it without any apparent reason. Ziad tells her about what happened to him since he started at the school. Karam and his friends used to beat him up all the time, even breaking 2 of his ribs. He ended up in the hospital without anyone knowing. They also humiliated him in front of his little sister, making him tie their shoelaces. Zainab is scared by his story and silences him. She asks why he didn't report it to the principal. Ziad tells her that any student who complained got expelled from the school. Zainab becomes worried and after leaving him encounters Karam. His friends throw paint on her because she refuses to apologize to him. Meanwhile, Dima is at the atelier and Magda asks her to go to Lujane's house to alter her dress. Dima refuses, saying she can't do it. Magda threatens her, saying she won't continue working with her if she doesn't comply. Dima decides to quit her job and return to the village with her daughter. She calls Zainab, who is crying, but Zainab composes herself and lies to her mother, saying she is fine to avoid worrying her. Zainab even says she has made friends at school, forcing Dima to change her mind and go to Lujane's house to finish the job and secure Zainab's expenses. Zainab feels sad, regrets not telling her mother the truth. At that moment, Mazen comes in and apologizes on behalf of his friend, saying Karam is a good person. Zainab doesn't believe him and calls Karam sick and crazy. She is touched by Mazen's kindness and is surprised to learn that the place she is sitting in belongs to him. Mazen asks her to change her clothes and promises to stand guard so no one bothers her. We switch to Lujane, who arrives at the production company, very excited because she thinks she will be the lead actress. She is shocked to find out that her role will be the mother of the lead actress because she is too old for the lead role. Lujane apologizes to the producer and leaves. At school, John talks to Karam, saying he can't get close to Zainab because Mazen is with her. Karam gets an idea and asks a girl at school to go to the bathroom and steal Zainab's underwear. The girl listens to him and enters the bathroom after Mazen stops her. Despite Mazen's warning, she doesn't listen and quickly goes inside. Zainab comes out and is shocked to find her clothes missing. She yells at Mazen, calling him ill-mannered, and gets even more upset when she learns he let a girl into the bathroom. Dima goes to Lujane's house and is moved when she sees wedding photos, revealing she knew Jihad. Dima gets lost in thought and doesn't hear Lujane calling her. Meanwhile, Hala leaves the school with Jihad and suddenly feels ill. Revealing she is sick, she refuses to go to the hospital with him, telling him she has anemia and also refuses his offer to take her home. Zainab leaves the school, embarrassed by the students laughing at her. Her humiliation deepens when Karam exposes her by throwing her underwear in the middle of the school. She breaks down in tears. Meanwhile, Dima is altering the dress for Lujane, who looks sad while talking to her. Lujane asks about her age, and Dima replies that she is 35. Lujane reveals that she is 3 years older and has a grown daughter. Lujane breaks down and asks Dima to leave. Dima returns home exhausted and tells Hala that she was at Jihad's house. Hala apologizes, explaining that she didn't know Lujane visited Magda. Dima cries, saying she can't get the image of Jihad and his daughter out of her mind, adding that her daughter should have been in that picture. It's revealed that Zainab is Jihad's daughter and that her mother kept it a secret because Jihad left her while she was pregnant and abandoned them. That's why she told Zainab that that her neighbor, the captain, was her father, as he drowned 16 years ago and died, so Zainab would never learn the truth. Hala advises Dima to tell her daughter the truth, saying that Zainab is old enough to decide for herself. She offers to talk to Zainab, but Dima refuses, saying she will decide when to tell her, especially since Jihad abandoned them long ago and they don't want to see him. Meanwhile, Jihad talks to his daughter and agrees she can return to school on the condition that she apologizes to Zainab. He advises her that while she can joke with her friend, she must not harm her. Manal reluctantly agrees to her father's terms to return to school. Later, Hala enters her room and reads the letter Dima had written to Jihad, informing him that she was pregnant and asking for his help. The next day at school, Zainab decides to take revenge on Karam. He is surprised to find a note on his car, in which Zainab tells him she won't leave. She immediately shoots paint at his car with her slingshot, feeling victorious as she walks away happily. However, she becomes scared to go to school and lies to her mother, saying she has a day off. Her mother doesn't believe her and tells her to get ready. Zainab goes to school, still frightened but feels reassured when she sees Mazen, who keeps Karam away from her. She starts to see Mazen as her hero, always protecting her. At the same time, Manal returns to school after promising her father she would apologize to Zainab. She feels upset about it and tells Karam, who gets an idea and tells her she must apologize to Zainab because he has a plan. As they talk, a student named Yasmin overhears them. We then see Zainab talking to Mazen, but she isn't really listening because she is daydreaming about him, showing she has developed feelings for him. John tells Ziad to follow Karam's orders, promising to forget what he did if he complies. Ziad refuses, but eventually agrees when John threatens his sister. Meanwhile, Zainab is in class when John's sister comes in and tells her the principal wants to see her. As soon as she leaves the classroom, two students grab her and take her to the basement. Zainab is shocked to see Ziad there. Ziad apologizes to her, then dunks her in the water. Zainab screams until Manal hears her, yells at the students, and chases them away. Manal tries to calm Zainab, but Zainab yells at her, saying they're all the same, and reminds her of what she did to her. Manal explains that she was forced to do it, revealing that she liked Karam, but regretted bothering Zainab. Zainab asks why she changed her mind, and Manal says it's because Karam went too far, and she never imagined it would come to this. Zainab still doesn't believe her, and walks away. At home, Dima doesn't want to go to work because she doesn't want to visit Lujan again. Hala apologizes again, saying it's all her fault. Dima reassures her, saying she is her best friend and has always helped her. No one else supported her since she gave birth to Zainab. Even her own family abandoned and disowned her. While they are talking, Hala remembers their childhood and the first time they saw Jihad. It's revealed that Hala knew Jihad and had a crush on him. Hala snaps out of her thoughts when Dima speaks, saying she will talk to Magda, but Dima refuses, asking her not to interfere. Hala agrees, but says she will visit her sister and won't be stopped. Meanwhile, Zainab is at Mazen's spot and thanks him for helping her in the morning. She tells him about what Manal did to her and that she doesn't trust her, feeling she's being played. Mazen praises Manal, saying she's a good girl and the best in school. Zainab believes him and decides to give Manal a chance. She then laughs at her situation, realizing she's in trouble every day, and Mazen always rescues her. He tells her about his plans to become the team captain because he wants to get the scholarship. Zainab is moved by his words and suddenly imagines him hugging her and confessing his love, saying he's been looking for her for a long time. She snaps back to reality when Mazen calls her name and tells him that his words sound like poetry, leaving him puzzled. Hala goes to her sister and asks her not to send Dima to Lujan's house. Magda is surprised and says that Lujan likes Dima's work and requested her by name. She's even more surprised to learn that Dima doesn't want to go because of Jihad, saying it's been a long time. Magda asks why Hala is helping Dima, and Hala recalls watching Jihad play basketball when they were young. Hala insists she's just helping her friend. Magda agrees not to send Dima to Lujan and says this is her final request. At school, Ziad is happy when Karam treats him well and asks John to protect him. We then see Yasmin treating the cafeteria worker poorly. It's revealed that the worker is her mother, but no one at school knows, which is why Yasmin avoids talking to her. However, Zainab treats her kindly and asks for extra food, explaining that she's not like the spoiled girls at school. Back in the basement, Ziad apologizes to Zainab and then dunks her in the water. Zainab screams until Manal hears her, yells at the students, and chases them away. Manal tries to calm Zainab, but Zainab yells at her, saying they're all the same, and reminds her of what she did to her. Manal explains that she was forced to do it, revealing that she liked Karam, but regretted bothering Zainab. Zainab asks why she changed her mind, and Manal says it's because Karam went too far, and she never imagined it would come to this. Zainab still doesn't believe her and walks away. We then see Yasmin treating the cafeteria worker poorly. It's revealed that the worker is her mother, but no one at school knows, which is why Yasmin avoids talking to her. However, Zainab treats her kindly and asks for extra food, explaining that she's not like the spoiled girls at school. Zainab is surprised when Manal asks her to sit next to her. Zainab agrees agrees, and Manal tries to start a conversation asking about her hometown. Zainab tells her that she wants to go back because all her friends are there, unlike Istanbul, where she feels like a stranger. Manal asks her to consider her a friend. Zainab gets annoyed when she sees Karam and excuses herself from Manal because she has training, telling her that her father is a great man. After leaving, Yasmin stops Zainab and advises her not to trust Manal. Zainab tries to get more information, but Yasmin just walks away. Zainab goes to the gym and sees Jihad playing. She compliments his skills, saying he looks like a professional player. Zainab is surprised to learn that Jihad was a basketball champion and won many titles. They start training, and Jihad asks her to change her shoes because they're not suitable for running. Zainab refuses, saying she's used to them. After training, Manal sits next to her, trying to get closer, and invites her to go to the mall. Hala sees them and feels happy, telling Jihad that she hopes they remain friends for life and no one comes between them. Hala recalls the day she planned to confess her feelings for Jihad to Dima, but was shocked to find out he loved Dima, so she kept silent. Hala snaps out of her thoughts when Jihad tells her he has planned a program for Zainab, wants to meet her family. She gets nervous and says she will talk to them. Meanwhile, Zainab calls her mother to ask permission to go out with Manal. Her mother is pleased to hear she has made friends and agrees. Zainab is shocked by the food prices after going out with Manal and doesn't want to order, but Manal insists. Manal shares that she almost died from mushrooms as a child due to an allergy and asks if Zainab has any allergies. Zainab says she eats everything like her mother. They talk about their families. Zainab reveals that her father disappeared 16 years ago. Manal shares about her family too, and then asks Zainab to go shopping with her. Zainab happily agrees, and Manal buys her a bracelet as a gift, getting one that matches. At home, Karam is annoyed when the maid brings his food to his room, telling him that no one will eat with him. Karam goes to his mother's office and overhears her talking to his father about which university he will attend. She tells her husband that Karam will study economics to take over the company when he graduates. Karam gets angry at his mother, asking her to consider what he wants and pleading for a normal family that eats together. He leaves the house in frustration. Siham asks her husband to help her because she can't handle their son in the business alone. Ahmed remains silent and walks away. At home, Dima remembers Jihad and talks to Hala, saying she never imagined he would leave her or that she would see him again after he abandoned her. Hala recalls the day Jihad traveled to Istanbul with his team, saying goodbye to Dima and promising to send letters through Hala. She returns to the present, feeling sad for her friend. Zainab refuses to take the elevator, telling Manal she is afraid of tight spaces because she once fell into a pit as a child and stayed there until morning. Manal agrees to take the stairs. Haram leaves home after arguing with his parents and goes to Mazen's house. He asks Mazen if he ever thinks about his family and wishes they were around to talk to. Mazen says he feels like they are always with him, listening. Haram feels sad and says that even though his family is alive, he never feels that way. Meanwhile, Zainab returns home and tells her mother what happened. Her mother asks her to return the money for the food. Hala becomes nervous when she learns Zainab was out with Manal, fearing that Zainab might tell her mother that Manal is the coach's daughter. She quickly tells Zainab to change her clothes. Dima says she doesn't regret having Zainab even after Jihad left her. Hala recalls when Dima gave her a letter to deliver to Jihad, asking her not to open it. However, Hala opened it and found out Dima was pregnant, despite knowing she hid the letter and never gave it to Jihad. Hala feels guilty, believing she caused their separation and wants to make amends. Hala goes to her room, opens the letter she still has, feels very sad, crying out of guilt. She hears Dima laughing and joking with her daughter, which cheers her up a bit. Manal is happy when her father gives her a new pair of shoes as a reward for apologizing to Zainab. She thinks about the other pair of shoes he bought for her mother. Meanwhile, Karam, sleeping over at Mazen's, tells him he often gets annoyed because Mazen is always optimistic and smiling as if he has no problems. Mazen explains that he is always hopeful and constantly dreams. Karam admits he doesn't have any dreams at all. The next day, Karam returns home and meets his mother as she is leaving for the company. She assumes he was at the club. Karam is upset that she didn't notice he wasn't sleeping at home. She apologizes, admitting she has been distant, and assures him that he is the most important person to her. Karam is happy when she promises to cut back on work and spend more time with him. Meanwhile, at school, Zainab is surprised to find a bag in her locker. She worries it might be a prank by Karam. She's surprised when she opens it and finds sports shoes inside, a gift from Jihad. She is happy but returns them, saying she can't accept the gift because her mother would be upset. Jihad convinces her to keep them, saying they will help her run faster. Manal is upset when she sees Zainab wearing the shoes. As Zainab leaves the gym, she meets Mazen, who tells her that her father is going to choose him as the team captain. He asks her to go out with him to celebrate. Manal agrees, but says she will decide once he becomes captain. Mazen is thrilled and attends the training. Zainab is happy to see him and keeps admiring him. Meanwhile, Ziad tries to get closer to Karam and his group, but Karam humiliates him, making all the the students laugh at him. Ziad feels hurt and apologizes to Zainab, promising to make up for his mistake. At work, Dima is doing her job when a woman named Aisha, who is jealous of her, tries to make her life difficult by dumping work on her. Dima stays silent, not wanting to cause any trouble. At school, Manal tells Zainab she has a surprise for her. Zainab says she can't go out late, so Manal offers to let her stay over at her house. Manal convinces Dima to let Zainab stay over, and despite her worries, Dima agrees for her daughter's sake. Mazen succeeds in becoming the team captain and asks Manal to go out with him. She tells him she has an important errand, but will meet him afterward. Meanwhile, Lujane is getting ready for a party when her dress suddenly tears. She calls Aisha for help, but Aisha forces Dima to go instead. Dima reluctantly agrees because Lujane begs her, saying she needs her help. Hala visits the doctor for a checkup and learns she has a brain tumor. The doctor advises her to start chemotherapy and then undergo surgery. Hala refuses, saying she is too busy and needs to fix past mistakes. The doctor tells her that no one can change the past, but Hala insists on trying. After school, Zainab goes out with Manal and enjoys their time at the amusement park, which is empty. They play enthusiastically, but Zainab refuses to enter the haunted house. She is shocked when Karam and his group arrive, realizing Manal lied to her. Manal had conspired with Karam to scare her and find out what she fears. It turns out Karam rented the amusement park for a whole day. The park owner warns him that the rides are old. Zainab is terrified when they tie her to a chair in the haunted house. Karam tapes her mouth shut and starts the ride, planning to leave her there all night. John is worried something might happen to her, but Karam insists on his plan and leaves her there, walking away. At the same time, Mazen gets ready and goes out with Manal. Zainab remains in the haunted house, screaming, but no one hears her. We see Dima at Lujan's place, fixing her dress. She leaves immediately after finishing, but forgets her wallet. Just then, Jihad arrives, and his wife asks him to give the wallet to Dima. Jihad rushes out, but misses her as she gets on the bus. He sees her from a distance and is shocked because she looks like his old love. Back at the haunted house, the ride breaks down with Zainab inside, but suddenly sparks fly, and it catches fire. At the same time, Karam returns home, where Ziad is waiting for him with a sharp object. Zainab continues to scream, terrified and fearing for her life. Mazen is happy to see Manal, but she seems bored, expecting the group to be there. Mazen tells her he didn't invite anyone else. While they talk, John calls Mazen, saying he needs to speak with him and asking him not to tell anyone. Mazen is shocked to learn from John what they did to Zainab. John was worried something might happen to her, which is why he called Mazen, who quickly excuses himself from Manal and leaves. Zainab, exhausted from crying, calls out for her mother and father. Mazen arrives just in time and rescues her from the haunted house, telling her to breathe and calming her down. He retrieves her bag and gives her water. Meanwhile, Jihad returns home after Dima has left, doesn't find his wife there. He keeps thinking about the woman who got on the bus, feeling a strange sensation. When Manal arrives home, he asks if she knows the seamstress. She tells him she only knows she works for Magda. Jihad becomes more curious and wants to open the wallet. At the same time, Hala sits at home, recalling the doctor's urgent advice to start treatment because the tumor is spreading quickly. Dima comes in and tells her she went to Lujane's house, explaining that she called her right before the party and regrets going. Hala asks why she went, and Dima says she wanted to help and couldn't refuse her request, assuring Hala she didn't go to see Jihad. Hala tries to calm her down, though she knows Dima is right. We return to Zainab, who is being helped by Mazen. He advises her to go home, but Zainab insists she must confront Karam because she nearly died because of him. Mazen offers to go with her, but she refuses, promising not to cause trouble. She then leaves and takes a taxi. At that moment, Karam receives a message from the famous artist who saw the drawings Mazen sent him. The artist tells Karam that his drawings are good, but need improvement. Karam is very happy and tries to talk to his mother to show her his drawings, but she is too busy and walks away. He knocks on his father's door, asking him to open it, but Ahmed doesn't respond. Continuing to watch the video of his deceased son, Karam tells him he knows he's inside and begs him to open the door because he wants his opinion on something. Karam becomes frustrated when his father still refuses to open the door and pleads with him to listen just once. He bangs on the door, telling him that he is still alive and not dead. In a fit of rage, he tears up his drawings and leaves. Ahmed finally opens the door and sees the torn drawings on the floor. Karam leaves the house, angry, and refuses to let the driver accompany him. On the road, he encounters Zainab, who stands in front of his car and tells him they need to talk. Karam refuses, but Zainab insists, saying she almost died because of him and that he needs to listen. She gets into his car, and Karam pleads with her to get out, promising to listen at school. Zainab reminds him that she almost died because of him and insists they talk now. In anger, Karam decides to drive very fast to scare her. Meanwhile, Mazen becomes worried and tries to call him, but Karam left his phone at home and doesn't answer. Mazen becomes even more anxious, not knowing what to do. Zainab, terrified, begs Karam to slow down. Karam calls her stupid and says she always shows up at the wrong time. time. He reveals that the road they are on is the same one where his older brother died and tells her that he and his family have been dead inside ever since, each isolating themselves. While talking, Karam realizes there is a problem with the brakes. He becomes afraid for Zainab and tries to protect her. Mazen remains worried, and his grandmother asks him why he came back early, thinking his friend didn't show up. Mazen denies this and tries calling Manal, but she doesn't answer. That evening, Hala sits with Dima and tries to make amends. Dima forgives her immediately, saying Hala was right and admitting she did want to see Jihad. She confesses she doesn't know why she's doing this, but Jihad was her first love and it's hard to see him again. She wanted to know if he had changed or was happy. Dima cries, saying she feels lost, but having Zainab makes it bearable. Dima is surprised when Hala says she wishes she could go back in time to ease Dima's pain. Hala reveals that there are things from the past she wants to share, but can't, promising that one day she will tell Dima everything. Mazen decides to go to Karam's house, but doesn't find him there. The maid informs him that Karam had a fight with his father and left, but doesn't know where he went. Mazen calls Karam's phone and becomes worried when he finds it in Karam's room. Mazen quickly leaves to look for him, but encounters Ahmed, who says he wants to talk to him. Ahmed asks about Mazen's grandmother and his studies. Mazen says everything is fine. Ahmed informs him that Karam will study abroad and asks if Mazen would like to do the same. Mazen replies that studying abroad is expensive and he's unsure if he'll get a scholarship. Ahmed reassures him and tells him not to worry about it, asking him to decide what he wants to study and leave the rest to him. Mazen thanks him, saying he's considering a few options but hasn't decided yet. As they talk, Siham overhears them and greets Mazen. Mazen lies, telling her that Karam is at his house but forgot his phone, which is why he's there to get it for him. After Mazen leaves, Siham asks her husband to care for their son as much as he does for Mazen, adding that they won't continue funding Mazen's expenses and have no obligation to pay for his university. Ahmed tells her that as long as he's alive, he will fulfill whatever Mazen wants. Siham is shocked when he says he plans to give Mazen his family's share of the stocks when the time is right, and then Mazen will manage the company with her. Siham reminds him that they almost lost everything, and if it weren't for her, they would have ended up on the street. She tells him he knows how hard she worked. Ahmed responds that their actions are driven by guilt. He locked himself at home, and she buried herself in work to forget. Siham denies this, insisting it's not true and that they owe Mazen nothing because they didn't kill his parents. His uncle did. Ahmed, upset by her words, walks away. Meanwhile, Karam asks Zainab if they are still alive after their car crash. He can't believe he survived and gets out of the car, laughing. Zainab is bewildered by his reaction and asks what's happening. Karam laughs, saying they are still alive, but Zainab gets upset and calls him crazy, reminding him they almost died because of him. She hits him, demanding to know what's so funny. Karam calms her down, holding her hands and hugging her. Zainab, initially taken aback, feels comforted by the hug, which surprises Karam, causing him to pull away. At home, Dima talks to Hala, asking about the medication she saw in her room. Hala lies, saying she had a headache for a while and was taking medicine for it. Hala becomes worried when she learns that Zainab is staying over at Manal's house and prevents Dima from calling her, suggesting she let her daughter enjoy herself without feeling bothered. She knows how girls her age dislike being interrupted and might feel distrusted. Dima listens to Hala and refrains from calling. Karam searches for his phone to call the driver, but realizes he left it at home. He asks Zainab to call someone, but her phone is broken due to the accident. Karam gets frustrated, but Zainab yells at him, reminding him that they are in this mess because of him. She suggests that their only option is to walk to the road and find a car to take them home. As they walk, Zainab reminds Karam that she almost died twice because of him. He retorts that he tried to stop her from getting into the car, but she insisted. Zainab explains that she was suffocating from the smoke at the amusement park and could have died. Karam doesn't believe her, and they argue, with Zainab wanting to hit him. Suddenly, they hear dogs barking. Karam tries to call the dog, but they are shocked to see a pack of dogs chasing them, forcing them to run quickly. They climb a tree to escape the dogs. Zainab mocks Karam for acting brave, but being scared now. Karam challenges her to go down and distract the dogs if she's so brave, but Zainab refuses. Meanwhile, Manal calls her friend Dayala, who doesn't want to answer because Manal has been hanging out with Zainab. Manal tells her she was only pretending to be friends with Zainab to do Karam a favor. Mazen continues to worry about Karam. His grandmother reassures him, saying Karam will turn up because he always comes to their house. Mazen calls the driver, who doesn't know Karam's whereabouts, explaining that he left the house angry. Karam and Zainab remain in the tree as the dogs wait below. Zainab laughs at him, finding it hard to believe that he's the same person who scares everyone at school. Mazen, growing more concerned, calls Manal. She doesn't want to hear his voice but becomes worried when she learns Karam is missing. Mazen asks for Zainab's number, but Manal refuses and hangs up on him. Karam and Zainab are left alone in the forest. Meanwhile, Lujan returns home looking upset. Jihad asks her about the party. Lujan says says it was terrible because the producer decided to cut 3/4 of her work. She gets more upset when Jihad, seemingly indifferent, watches TV. They argue, with Lujan accusing him of asking about her, but not really listening, saying he should have at least pretended to care. Jihad mocks her by repeating what she wants to hear, saying the director is indeed an idiot and asking for her phone to call him. Lujan gets angry and tells him to mock himself instead, saying he ruined his future and theirs along with him. She adds that, unlike him, she still appears on TV and works, while he just sits and watches. Jihad agrees, saying she's right because he remembers how they used to go out and attend parties and had many friends. Lujan is pleased, thinking he understands her, but Jihad's tone reveals he's mocking her. He tells her the only solution is for her to learn when he's joking. Lujan feels disheartened and laughs at herself. Back to Karam and Zainab, they climb down from the tree after the dogs leave. Zainab walks away, but then she plays a prank on Karam, saying there are dogs, making him panic and climb back up the tree. She laughs at him, saying she'll protect him. In the middle of the night, Jihad returns home after everyone is asleep, but Lujan is still awake. Jihad goes into his office and considers opening Dima's wallet, but decides against it at the last moment. Instead, he looks at photos of himself and Dima when they were young. Meanwhile, Dima can't sleep and enters her daughter's room, looking at a photo on her desk where she had cut out Jihad's part, leaving only their neighbor to convince Zainab he was her father. Zainab tells Karam to follow her, explaining the route they should take to get out. Karam questions her choice, suggesting the other path might be correct. Zainab asks if he's ever gone hunting or walked in the forest before, and Karam admits he doesn't like those activities. She tells him not to overthink and insists on her chosen path. Karam reluctantly follows her, as he doesn't know the way. Exhausted, he sits down midway. He tells her they should wait until morning to continue. Zainab agrees and gives him some biscuits when he asks. She's surprised when he eats all the biscuits without leaving any for her. He then asks how she escaped from the amusement park, but Zainab doesn't tell him. He asks about her school, hinting that it's his school. Explains that he's been trying to show her that he owns it, that she can only continue there if he allows it. Karam says anyone who tried to challenge him couldn't last long. Zainab tells him she's not afraid of him and that the school belongs to everyone. She adds that she hates it when people tell her to stay out of their way because she only fears God. Karam says this means they'll have many confrontations, but Zainab remains uninterested, stating she doesn't take threats seriously. She then tries to sleep, deciding not to move until morning. Karam falls asleep too and wakes up startled to find Zainab sleeping on his shoulder. Suddenly, a car appears and he quickly moves away. Zainab wakes up shocked and runs after him. The next day, Hala wakes up late and tells Dima she couldn't get up. She denies being sick and then has breakfast with Dima, who is shocked to realize she forgot her wallet at Lujan's house. Lujan is shown sitting with her friends from the acting and fashion industry, lying to them about having many projects. Lujan is surprised to learn that her friend is getting plastic surgery. At that moment, Karam returns home with Zainab, who asks why they didn't go straight to school. He explains that they look a mess and need to change clothes. Karam asks Zainab to come inside while he talks to the driver, instructing him to follow orders without mentioning it to anyone. Zainab is amazed by the interior of the house. Karam is surprised to learn that his father left the house. He goes to his room and asks the maid to prepare breakfast. He offers Zainab to use the bathroom and change her clothes. She initially refuses, but agrees after he convinces her. Dima goes to work and asks about her wallet, but doesn't find it. She realizes she left it at Lujan's house and calls Lujan to ask about it. Lujan is surprised to find out the wallet is still with her husband. Lujan is even more shocked when she talks to Jihad and asks about the wallet. He lies, saying he gave it to the seamstress. In reality, Jihad is at Magda's atelier, trying to confirm if Dima works there. Jihad is stunned to learn that the wallet belongs to Dima and realizes she is his old love. He doesn't stay to see her and leaves quickly, but Dima sees him before he leaves and watches him from the window. Meanwhile, Zainab goes to school with Karam and wants to get out before reaching the school to avoid being seen by the students. Karam refuses and drives her to the school entrance. All the students are shocked to see them get out of the car together, especially Manal, who can't believe her eyes. Zainab feels embarrassed and distances herself from Karam as soon as she gets out of the car, walking into the school alone. Ziad stops her, saying she's embarrassed to face him because she used to mock him, and now she's close to Karam. Zainab gets upset when Ziad accuses her of befriending Karam to stop him from bothering her. She angrily tells him she's not a liar and doesn't have to justify herself to him. Zainab is shocked to learn from Ziad that he tampered with the car's brakes and yells at him, saying they could have died because of him. Ziad, flustered, apologizes, and Zainab tells him to keep it a secret because Karam will ruin him if he finds out. She tells him that she would never get close to Karam or become his friend. Manal tries to find out why Zainab got into the car with Karam, but fails. At that moment, Zainab stops her and throws her bracelet back at her, warning her to stay away. Manal throws the bracelet in the trash and walks away. When Zainab enters the classroom, she talks to Yasmin and tells her she was right. They get to know each other, and Zainab shares everything that happened. Meanwhile, Karam buys a new phone for Zainab to replace the one that broke. He asks John to put it in her locker. At that moment, Mazen arrives and gives Karam his phone, telling him he was planning not to speak to him. Karam explains what happened, and Mazen tells him to stop thinking about Zainab because it could end badly. He reminds him that she almost died at the amusement park. Karam is relieved to learn that Mazen was the one who saved her, feeling lucky to have him as a friend because he would have felt guilty if something had happened to Zainab. He also tells Mazen that the famous artist contacted him and is pleased with his work. Hala is shocked when Dima comes to the school to tell her that Jihad went to the atelier. She doesn't let him into the office, and Jihad thinks she's joking with him. At that moment, John delivers the gift to Zainab, who is delighted. She tells Dayala about it, who then informs Manal. Later, Zainab meets Mazen and is happy to feel that he was worried about her. He tells her he was trying to reach her. We return to Dima, who breaks down crying to her friend, saying she paid a high price for her relationship with Jihad. While they are talking, Jihad knocks on the door. Hala, terrified, intercepts him at the last moment before Dima sees him.